2021 was a wild year for the superhero movie genre. While the cinemas aren't exactly back to where they were, this was still a solid year for comic book movies. For this list, I have gathered 7 of the most popular, the most interesting, and the best offerings from superheroes this year. We have a little bit of Marvel, a little bit of DC, and an animated feature included on this list. Before we get into this video, make sure you all subscribe to Flickering Myth and let us know what your favorite comic book movie was of 2021. Now, let's get into the list. Number 7, Venom: Let There Be Carnage. Yes, this sequel isn't as beloved as the first entry, but it works on every level it needs to, so it finds a place on this list. It's about as humorous as the first film, possibly even more, with Venom and Eddie's having a hilarious breakup plot in the film. But Venom: Let There Be Carnage does not shy away from the campy superhero stylings as well, with Woody Harrelson getting just enough screen time to chew up as the titular Carnage. Battling for the 7th spot on this list was Let There Be Carnage and Black Widow, and the Venom sequel won just because it feels so outside of the box. While the MCU entry may work for some fans, it's more of the same that we've seen from the MCU. Let There Be Carnage is not like any of its peers, and we need more over-the-top, fun superhero movies like this. When Spider-Man is having very heavy, serious films these days, let's have a little bit of cheese and camp. Number 6, Batman: The Long Halloween. This was a 2-part animated film series which was released over the summer, which is odd given the name, but it was a smash hit for DC Animation. The animation studio has been in a bit of a tizzy after the interesting hard reset that was Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, and this felt like the first real step in the right direction. Strong voice acting and a compelling story really helped gloss over the less than stellar animation moments. Overall, The Long Halloween finally brought to life the iconic comic book story in a new way. The upcoming film from Matt Reeves with Robert Pattinson totally feels inspired by the comic as well, but even that has a hard time keeping up with how solid of an adaptation this was. Number 5, Eternals. Probably the most controversial placement on this list, especially over Black Widow, which did not rank on here at all, but Eternals feels like the first real artsy attempt that Marvel has ever had, and it deserves some credit for that. Filmmaker Chloe Zhao brings her subtle filmmaking sensibilities and really tries to change up the MCU formula. While that obviously didn't work for everyone, I did find the film breathtaking, and it was a truly unique film in the whole Marvel pantheon now. Maybe it was Zhao's quiet stylings that offered a new thing here, but you can't think of a more pensive and emotional driven film that Marvel has ever made. The backlash for this film being a bit dull isn't shocking, but I can't help to find it a refreshing take. Much like Ang Lee's Hulk years and years ago, you need something to shake up the system and turn the conversation inwards when dealing with comic book movies. Is it as explosive and entertaining as other movies on this list? No, but that doesn't make it any less watchable. This has a great cast filled with emotional drama and otherworldly battles. That's perfectly fine, and we need more of that as well. Number 4. The Suicide Squad. What a batshit crazy superhero movie, and that's saying something with what the genre is pumping out these days. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad feels like everything you would want from the titular superhero group and somehow still exceeds those expectations. Not only is it a massive improvement over the 2016 film, but it stands up on its own as one of DC's most thrilling and fun films ever. For the brand that is always critiqued for its darker themes, this is a good example that sometimes darkness can be fun. James Gunn brings together a hilariously wild team of heroes in one of the weirdest missions ever, and you are engaged for every twist and turn. Also, as a longtime DC superfan, I never thought someone would bring Starro to life, but somehow this movie did it seamlessly. Let's hope James Gunn can come back for at least one more DCEU entry and have way more fun with these heroes. Number 3. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Marvel has a formula, and we all know that, but 2 of their films this year really tried to shake things up and offer something new. They had the previously mentioned Eternals, and the other one is this entry, Shang-Chi. While the finale feels totally MCU and the comedy is the usual cringe stuff, the film still feels unique and very refreshing. Our lead hero is complex and still relatable. He's a badass that doesn't need suits or alien powers to prove it, and the villain is one of the most well acted in any Marvel movie. Shang-Chi is exactly where Marvel should be pushing towards in the future. While it doesn't carry the massive importance to the overall Marvel story like Loki or even the Eternals, there's still a lot to enjoy, and you can see where Shang-Chi's going to play a bigger role in the Marvel universe going forward. If they can keep up the wonderful martial arts work, the solid connection between our characters, and find a way to push the character more into the MCU proper, we can see the start of the next great Marvel franchise. Number 2. Zack Snyder's Justice League. The movie many thought never would happen, myself included. Admittedly, I am a massive fan of Zack Snyder and his work in the DC universe, but this movie goes beyond fanboy love. This was a massive moment in Hollywood for Warner Brothers and for Snyder himself. We saw all the drama around release the Snyder Cut. We heard the horror stories of Joss Whedon's production. So the release of this film earlier in the year felt like an end of a very long battle. Everything bad about that 2017 version was washed away, and you got a complete film epic on par with almost no other superhero film. Moving away from the hype, the movie itself works on many levels. A lot of the issues people had with Snyder's previous work was course corrected here. While never turning away from the actual darkness, the film feels way more hopeful throughout. The characters all got complete arcs, and the newly introduced ones like Flash and Cyborg were able to hold their own next to Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman. Then you sprinkle in some massive crazy DC fan service, and it's easy to see why this film ranks so high. Number 1. Spider-Man No Way Home. Was there any doubt on what movie would top this list? This was an experience like no other. Maybe Endgame had this level of insanity, but the circumstances around the release of No Way Home made it feel somewhat even larger than anything else. It wasn't just the inclusion of multiverse characters. It wasn't just the first massive blockbuster on this scale in quite some time. It was all of that and then some. This ended up as one of the first great MCU Spider-Man films, and the positivity around the film proves that. Is it the greatest Marvel movie of all time? No, it's not even the best Spider-Man film, but it allowed Tom Holland to really perfect the role and gave the perfect type of fan service that's needed these days. Look, most of us are done with Disney and Marvel milking nostalgia, but when it can be done right, it feels so good, it feels so unhollow, it feels worthwhile. Just like the second entry on this list, this movie was made for longtime fans and it made them feel good, and that's exactly what superhero entertainment should be about. What do you think of the ranking of these superhero movies? Do you think No Way Home was the best superhero movie this year? What were your feelings on things like Eternals and Zack Snyder's Justice League? Let us know down in the comments below. Also, make sure you subscribe to Flickering Myth and give us a thumbs up if you did enjoy our superhero ranking.